CM Punk did a interview with Ariel Helwani yesterday, I believe, yesterday afternoon, Monday, right? And he opened up the same jar of leftovers that we've talked about on this show. I felt like tonight it was kind of going to be like a greatest hits, for us, of basically going over everything that we've previously said, kind of with a couple new twists. Mr. Guaranteed contracts. A lot of people were saying there was just odd rhetoric being told throughout this thing, and then I started thinking about this thing, James, and I was like, let's see, let's add all these elements together. Brian Windhorst with the fingers here, right?
Uh-huh.
This is One Nation Radio. There's a pyramid above me in the logo. I wonder what's going on here. These are the factors. One, CM Punk can't wrestle this year. He's injured. He will not be having a match. When did they schedule this interview? Oh, the Monday of WrestleMania week. Oh. 3, who they scheduled this interview with? Their guy, Ariel Helwani.
Yep.
4, what are they doing this, what else was coming out? Oh, some Vince McMahon, more stuff with the Vince McMahon stuff was dropping that day with the love letters and, all that other stuff. What is all this? Something stinks. This smells like a rollout. I know a rollout when I see one. CM Punk did not wrestle a match this year, or will not wrestle a match at WrestleMania this year. So his match this year was the Ariel Helwani interview. It's not the commentary that's coming on Saturday night or Sunday night, whenever the fuck it is, because he didn't even bother to really get into that too much. This was his WrestleMania match. Go on there. You're in a safe, controlled environment that they literally later were running angles on with Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, treating him like he was goddamn Jay Leno out there. They had this man come out there and was like, hey, go ahead. Hey, you can talk about whatever you want, seemingly. Just don't get yourself sued. And if you want to do a drive-by at AEW, by all means, we'll do that. Whatever. Throw your hands up. Didn't matter. My only question is, why did they stop there? Or I hope they don't stop here with Ariel Helwani. When did they book him to go on the Jim Cornette Experience? Just go all the way with it.
Has Cornette and Brian Last ever had a WWE signed talent on the show?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but there was a couple things I think I think we should just jump right to the guaranteed contract thing, because that thing is like really blown, a kind of the hole in this whole conversation with this, because he was talking about it from one perspective, but when you bring it up, it's like, all right, people can receive the information, however they see fit. I feel like, it was his idea that, if contracts weren't guaranteed, people would have to work harder to fill the buildings and stuff like that. So this kind of lines up with, CM Punk being the arbiter of hard work. Like when the whole thing with Jack Perry going on vacation before, and he, brought up in this interview, like, a guy wrestles once and then they do pre-tapes and, they, 4 weeks pass and nothing happens for him.
I want to know what, like, people's obsession it is with, like, the wrestlers being in the building but not on TV. If they have nothing for you and nothing is planned for you, why the fuck must y'all insist on everyone being there? Flying in for who? For what?
I don't know, man. But like
this is the entertainment industry, right? Understand there's a difference between a locker room for sports and a locker room for wrestling. and also like a set for a TV show, film, what have you. There's call sheets or whatever else, and people don't need to be there or not be there based on whether or not they're on the call sheet for that particular day when it's movies. So I don't know what. So for that particular, in which CM Punk has done film and TV before, so I don't know why he's tripping from that perspective. But like this part where it's like you need to be there, and it's like, well, even in sports, when people like don't need to be there, they just won't because there's no point in flying out. It makes no sense to me. Who gives a shit? I don't get it. And this has been this thing that's been going on where it's like, whether it was Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker about the fucking back injury, whether it's now this is like, if they've already handled their obligations to the promotion and the TV properties on the promotion, why the fuck do they need to be there? For who? For what? Why? No one's ever. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's so weird. It's so strange. It's so outdated, antiquated. Where like everybody needs to be there no matter what. Like, for why?
Then with the whole deal with the guaranteed contracts, he basically was like just espousing just the like, we've talked about hypocrisy as in regards to CM Punk before, and it not being like a thing for him. He like revels in it at this point. This was Aaron Rodgers-esque. You know,
he's not nearly as bad as Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
but yeah, I get you, man.
It was like such a lack of self-awareness. It was like the guaranteed money that you're bringing up and you're quote unquote railing against this entire system. Essentially, this shit was designed. Like, I thought it could have just been inserted into the WCW death of WCW, WWE mass-produced DVDs, where the wrestlers were being essentially, you know, putting the company line out to essentially pay them less money. You know, without guaranteed money, he wouldn't have no business to come back to. Without guaranteed money, all these injuries that he got, he's still getting paid on that. I don't see CM Punk trying to give that money back. I don't see this guy like going through and he's like, you know, he might owe companies money if it's not for guaranteed money. It might cost him to go to work if it weren't for guaranteed money.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it because, like, I get why if you're somebody that lived in the Monday Night War situation and you on the WWF side, you get or you understand or you feel that like the guaranteed money made people lazy over there, because look at Hogan, look at Kevin Nash, look at all the people that were out here getting more money every time they were told they had to do a job, and they would get Dolores on the phone, say this person gets extra $50K because they had to lay down for somebody, and all that shit. Yeah, I get that. The ethos of AEW is so fucking different amongst the locker room and the level of effort that's put into matches and angles and all that kind of stuff, and the amount of collaboration, and like even while to the point where like if you are somebody that ever sticks up for yourself and don't want to do a job at a particular point, we call you out for the once or two times you do it and act like you are like this albatross around the company needs to leave. The fans do. So it's so weird. It's so weird. Like they're AEW and WCW are nothing alike other than they both run on Turner. That's it. So I don't get it at all. It's nonsense. It is a lot of what you said at the beginning when this stuff started happening when he left. Like he has an outdated sense of what pro wrestling is outside of WWE or what wrestling used to be, and he's still stuck on it. And the thing is, like, he quickly realized that like the way that people make this thing work for in AEW, make it work totally different than how he does it. And he has not settled on the part where like, even though he says it, that like there are different ways to do these things, he does not agree on when they don't do it his way. Like he wants to do MJF and CM Punk, and it's mostly about the storylines, and you get 2 matches over, or sorry, well, 3 matches if you include the Wardlow thing, over the span of, what is it, 6 months? He wants to do that, right? He doesn't actually want to do like the Will Ospreay way, the Kazuchika Okada way. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want to do that. And I don't blame him because that would not be to his strong suit. But at the same time, as he does it, as he says this stuff, he's not realizing that like the way that this is like a coaching thing where he's like, most of the wrestlers at AEW get over doing it this particular way. So they're going to do their way to get over because they've gotten over doing it that way. There are MJFs, there is Adam Copeland here, there's a Christian here, there is a Swerve here that can get over in that way. There's Adam Page and John Moxley that get over doing it the TV Americanized style way. And they all got over. That doesn't mean that like those people only do it their way. There are other times that he's go out there and have a match and let it rip. And like I think he got in the room and realized like he couldn't change the way this company worked and was like, all right, I gotta find a way to get out of here. And then when he also alluded to, as Rich mentioned, when you go through the almost 2 years at this point of like all this stuff that's going on with CM Punk, like he wanted to come back to WWE in 2019, and he actually admitted it.
Yep.
In this thing,
I knew it.
Like, I wanted to come
back.
And I tried to
Q45.
Because the thing he was talking about, right? He kept saying like, I think about it from a Booker perspective, right? And it kept coming back at different times. He kept saying it from Booker perspective, like, you know, I wanted to come back. I almost thought I was ready to go, and then I did the TV show to do the analyst thing for Fox Sports or whatever else, and he thought that could be a back-weight channel to get into, and then it never went through again. So then he decided like, I want to do wrestling again, and then he decided to go to AEW, and then like you talk about like the whole brawl out fight or whatever else. When he came back, he said like, hey, one thing I actually believe him, like, given the way they all blew up and the way he ended, he did not want to come back. And when Tony Khan made that show to put all the ex-WWE and / problematic people that have heat with the wrestling, like they basically made Saturday Night solitary confinement over there, like he said the shit wasn't gonna work. He was right. The shit wasn't gonna work. We all said, hey man, this shit ain't gonna work because like CM Punk's the only real star there. And he's gonna be wrestling people that aren't stars.
And they also didn't give him what he wanted. They didn't give him MJF in the unification. They didn't give him the Elite.
The rest of the top stars froze him out. And that's what I was saying at the time. No, keep noticing that none of the actual top stars except for CM Punk's on this Saturday show, except for that's a top act, except for FTR. And FTR is a tag team, so it's not the same thing. Like they froze him out. He self-destructed. He got his way he finally found a way to get out of there. He's now back where he always wanted to be back in 2019. And you know, from his perspective, he got what he wanted. Whether or not he destroyed another company, he didn't care. He wanted out after once he got to MJ or the Adam Page thing, and Page did some shit on air that they didn't cover when they talked about what they're gonna do in their promo. He wanted out ever since then, and that's where we were. And it's like, all right, like to hear perspective, I think hearing perspective is still worthwhile because I still hear stuff and I'm just like, some of this stuff I'm like, that's total bullshit. And for some sides I'm like, I can see why he thought that way, and he handled it totally fucking wrong. But other times like that's flat out just you flip flopping on wherever you are now in your position based off of like the results. But at the time you weren't on this because like him talking about I don't want to do dirt sheet shit. I don't want to.
Yeah. Why are you doing this internet stuff on TV?
I don't want to do this internet stuff on TV. And it's like,
that's your whole gimmick.
I'm sorry, CM Punk. Wasn't your last line from when you came back on Raw was that I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money? Like, you literally cut that promo talking about, you know, the $1 billion, the $1 billion, $1 bill thing to get the Bucks line to do the thing of the work shoot stuff to get the nerds into getting that program because you want the program because of the part where like they know there's real life tension there because there was a fight. Don't give me that you're not doing the insider shit.
Like there was a whole ESPN interview that coincided with the launch of Collision. There was the off-air promos about Heyman Page where you were apologizing later and all this other shit and just routinely. Like
all out started because of the press conference. In the press conference, what did he do? He exposed his business by talking about the Colt Cabana shit to begin with.
Like shit that like
and choose it. It was just funny because he talks about the Cornette shit and Brian Last, all that kind of stuff. And that's another huge staple for Cornette. One of his biggest flaws is he talks about how much he hates the Russo shit for exposing the business. You are trying to double cross people because they know certain things, and you are trying to subvert their expectation because they're smart to the business by playing on the part where they know stuff. And then at the same time, you hear Cornette basically say, "Well, go out there and screw Vince, or go out there and screw Bret Hart. Then you did the worst thing that ever happened as far as exposing the business." It's the same thing. Like you talk about the hypocritical thing. It's like you're picking and choosing who can expose the business and who not, based off of do you like them or not, or if it's you or if it's not.
Had a lot of comments on Tony Khan and Jack Perry as well. The stuff with Tony Khan. Came, in the fallout of Jack Perry. He basically told me, "You're a clown. I quit." He said AEW is not a real business. There's also he's saying he's not a boss. He's a nice guy and all this other stuff. And I don't know, man.
And that part I actually agree with. Like, Tony Khan has been way too nice with this. Like, he's not been nearly as cutthroat as he should have been. And and I'll still say that while we get to the part where they finally made their first wave of cuts ever later in the show. So yeah.
The whole deal with Jack Perry is it seemed like just a situation that that arose, but that also had to do with, CM Punk trying to play, the PR, because the reason why the Real Glass, Crimea River shit, why people knew what Jack was talking about was because CM Punk, through his back channels, was going to the media for a CM Punk pick-me-up story after he was in deep shit over that shit with Hangman, where niggas was getting banned from the building, and he was talking shit about Hangman Page, called him a peg warmer, all this shit. So he was like, all right, it's Wednesday, I gotta drop my weekly story to show what type of leader CM Punk is. And then you talk about Jack Perry, and then I imagine when you're Jack Perry, it's like, all right, because we talked about it at the time. It was like, if you're Jack Perry reading this, it's like, hold on, what does this do for me? It's like, if you had a conversation with me and all that stuff, it's like, it's not about you, hey, CM Punk leader guy. It's like, the narrative. These kids don't want to listen. And it's the easiest thing to weaponize against the youth on the roster. You don't want to listen to people. You don't want to do it this way. And fans it's like red meat, for fans to come down on these people. When they found out Hangman Page wasn't necessarily interested in taking advice. This is like when Regal came in, people were like, they got Regal in there and he can be like a booker and all this. I'm like, that's not real. I don't this is stupid.
And the other part about it is I'm sorry, I thought Jerry Lynn has been back there the whole time.
Right. There's plenty of people that work backstage.
Back there the whole fucking time.
Plenty of people.
Right. I thought Dustin was back there the whole time. I thought Dean Malenko was back there the whole time. There's people that go back further in more old school, if you will, and grew up in a rougher, tougher American pro wrestling landscape than CM Punk ever did, that are back there and have been back there the whole fucking time. You don't hear a peep from them. Chris Jericho's on the roster, by the way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so what? Are we just like, you? It's a new sheriff in town and they ain't going by your way, even though there's all this other veteran locker room presence. Big Show's been back there. I'm sorry, Paul White, whatever you want to call him. Mark Henry's been back there this whole time. There's been a bunch of old school motherfuckers from the last 30 years, 40 years of pro wrestling have been back there. Stings was back there too. I don't, what is happening? I don't get it. And it was funny, when he did the whole thing talking about his quote unquote friends, and he didn't want to name his friends, and then he goes on to name 5 friends. He mentioned Darby, he mentioned Sting, he mentioned Danhausen, FTR. I think he also mentioned Brody King, which is interesting because he also mentioned it also mentioned House of Black at one point, and then he mentioned Brody King's actually close friend. I'm like, I bet people. I'm glad he said Brody King, because if you hadn't said that, people would have been like, oh, is that goddamn Malachi Black? I'm glad he's naming names. They be on Malachi ass. So yeah, it's just it was a lot, because obviously it was like an hour and 50-minute podcast where we covered a lot. I think they first started the timeline on him coming back to WWE post AEW. So it was worth a listen. I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah, worth a listen. Another big part, like he kind of implied that he hurt himself during the fight or whatever.
Yep, and he certainly did.
And he tried to he basically like he walked up to the stove, leaned over the stove, and was like, "I'll touch it, but I'm gonna back up." If you want to think I said this, I did, but
right.
And that's like a case where it's like, all right, we know that everyone's NDA'd up on that, right? And another one of his quotes was, I didn't sign an NDA for anything I did wrong. So like, that's that Aaron Rodgers doublespeak right there. That's like that. I'm immunized, not vaccinated. I'm immunized. Like, a man who never thinks he's done anything wrong. Of course, this would be his position on the NDAs. He said, no one from AEW talked to him for months. Like he, did his whole deal, whatever. But it's a lot, man. He
talked about like there's a 9-day difference between WWE's protocols and procedures for injuries and AEW's, and he had to call people to do rehab and all that kind of stuff. When it was this triceps that was torn, I already knew what I needed to do because they told me what I need to do or whatever. So I'm just like, all right, bro. Like, I ain't really trying to hear this, seeing that, like, you're one of the few people in AEW, like, that was on screen talent that actually had, like, health insurance. I ain't really trying to hear that from
you. Yeah. Confirmed.
Like, do you think Darby Allin would, every time he ends up getting himself fucked up, has to figure this out? Oh, he does every single time? Okay. Maybe you should, too.
Yeah, they
and he ain't got insurance. Ain't nobody putting him on their nobody's paying for Darby Allin's insurance. Nobody.
This was really 4D work from Nick Khan, Dwayne Johnson, whoever set this up, because Nick Khan, CAA. That's
another line he said. That's
the whole reason. Like Nick Khan has been the key to all this shit. He wanted
2019. The 2019. He was signed. He was rep by CAA. Nick Khan was still at CAA. WWE was still with CAA at the time. Got him that new TV deal for SmackDown. And then they hired Nick Khan, and then it didn't go through, probably because Vince put his foot down and said, "I don't want to bring him in." And then Nick Khan brought him in, and he said, like, if I know your no-compete calls right after you left AEW, I would have brought you in sooner. He said he called him the Monday, the couple days before
Survivor Series, yeah,
a few days before Thanksgiving, yeah. So it's like, all right, man, and then also mentioned like
all this shit been linked up. Like this shit was like CM Punk was never supposed to come to AEW, and I feel better about it now. Like this shit was never supposed to like be a long-term thing. This was never going to be. When I interviewed Kenny Omega, one of the biggest things I took away from it, was how he was like, yeah, man, and the Young Bucks have also made similar like comments where it was like, if there's a legacy they're trying to leave with this shit, and what they're trying to do in AEW is help get other wrestlers paid, and for young wrestlers that come along have more options and stuff like that. So when you got a guy talking about guaranteed contracts and all this stuff, and this is the worst thing that happened to the business, these the word I'm looking for, these ideals are at odds with each other. No wonder they fucking exploded. And that's just one of the things that made this whole thing explode. This is like, a lot of insecurity, a lot of, skirting around between, Dave Meltzer, who, talked about this whole situation again, basically exposed CM Punk talking to him and explaining how ratings work to him because CM Punk, out of the business for so long, didn't understand these things. But, in Punk's case, everyone's a liar but him. That's how he protects the veneer of whatever, he can sell his fans and all that, which I get the game, but it is a game at the end of the day. Everybody's playing something. And ironically, the one side that has amplified this shit time and time again has continued to do this because it is the only song that this person knows how to play. This is the only thing now that they are doing to drive interest, whether it was 6 minutes after Brawl Out or All Out, whatever, 6 weeks, 6 months. Now we're like, I don't know, 18 months. Hangman Page still not saying shit. Kenny Omega still not saying shit. The Young Bucks are having fun on screen. Largely have gotten away from this shit. Tony Khan obviously hasn't said shit.
Didn't they get somebody a Starbucks gift card like a couple weeks ago?
That's what I said. A couple weeks ago. They've gotten away from this shit.
Okay. Like, look, I still remember that match they had in Chicago during the best 7, all right? They know how to show their ass.
It was fresh.
But it was fresh. Say nothing. They just show their ass.
Hey, it was fresh. It was like, if you want to respond, you free to wrestle like the Young Bucks. Let's see you try it. CM Punk. Let's see you try. You can't escape. I'd love to see it. Try the buckshot. Oh, he did try the buckshot lariat. Yeah, that's.
See, I think the thing for me is like, this is so clearly he has issue with
therapy.
Hangman and the Young Bucks. He doesn't actually have an issue with Kenny Omega, and Omega don't care either. Omega's like, I was just there. Like, I was just there, and this shit happened, man. And the motherfucker bit me, allegedly.
Yeah. But it's like, man. It's like this nigga's playing the same song. It's like, how long? All right, you done went in public now and did it again, right? Like, you wasn't building up no storylines. Like, you wasn't talking about what you got going on in WWE. It was like, we knew what you was here for, man.
Well, he can't because he's old and he has a missing muscle in his arm, so it's gonna be months. Like, and there's nothing where it's like, he don't like. I think he also alluded he don't know when he's gonna come back. I'm like, bro, like you tore it like completely, and this is January. You ain't got no
prognosis.
Your mark set on SummerSlam. Like what?
Yeah. Or Saudi Arabia.
I mean, that's
crown jewel.
I imagine that's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah. Just I would suggest watching it, so obviously you can kind of see this stuff and then just kind of remember the timeline of events here. And obviously, there were so many.
I just choked him a little bit. You asshole.
What's up?
When he said I just choked him a little bit.
I choked him a little bit. Yeah.
I will say this: it still holds up my tweet about Samoa Joe at that time. That man said, let him go. Yep. You are not, Bill. You are not fucking up my Wembley match. It's not happening. Get your ass out here to wrestle.
Tony Khan, that's what Ariel should have asked. Did Tony Khan tell you to get the fuck out there and wrestle? I would have loved to know the answer to that.
Like, it sound like a boss to me.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I don't know, man. Like, if you want to call,
it was a lot, man.
Yeah, if you want to call CM Punk a hypocrite, all right, go ahead. Like, he lives.
It's all there.
He lives in it. He revels in it. It makes him stronger. It seems like so.
And the part that makes it so good, is like you're watching. It's like I know the lies.
Yes,
but like I know where the lies are, the flat out lies. I'm like, bro, but he sounds like it's true. It's amazing. Like this is an amazing performance. Like this dude, yes. I don't want to say he's sociopath.
I'm glad you brought that up. Performance. That's exactly what this was.
Right.
This was a performance.
Right. It was also the part where it's like he talked about like running into Vince before like this second news dropped. It was like, oh, you hugged him, but you knew that he had got ousted for fuckery. You knew he had got ousted for sexual fuckery anyway, would have fucked up power dynamic. You just know the details of it. And then he does and talks about the Benoit stuff and says like, yeah, man, like I knew this person, fuck them, they did terrible things. It's like, but you hug this person knowing that he got ousted for doing fuckery. You just know the details. And then he actually mentioned, some of the stuff. Yeah. I think he actually said the word shit.
Yeah, he read the text and yeah.
And it's like, hey man, like, all right. I don't think I'm gonna hug somebody that I found out that got ousted for that shit. Like I'm sorry, I ain't hugging Diddy. Not happening.
Look, and he made this remark about how he would not let Vince McMahon have a father-son relationship that Vince was kind of seeking with him. That we've heard many wrestlers talk about.
Yeah, and he also mentioned the Becky Lynch quote from like a month or two ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, I don't know, man. You walked back into that man's arms though, so I don't. You didn't go for one of these, or a pound, or a head nod. Was that not an option, CM Punk?
Forget that part. he wanted to come. He's wanting to come back into Vincent Man's Pro Wrestling since 2019.
He wanted to come back into Vince McMahon Pro Wrestling so bad he started doing it on his own on Collision.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to leave.